welcome to making a poster in Illustrator for the final presentation and Photoshop with some basic image manipulation or creation. This will take you through the step of having a black and white sort of sketched concept through to the final that I've sort of got here. Obviously yours is going to be better quality because you're going to spend more time developing it. This task is really made for the VCE SAC 1 for the communication design practical components. So you've all outlined what you're going to design in your presentations or your analysis, and they're going to vary from billboards to web banners to vehicle wraps, so on and so forth. But this will guide you through that development process. Number one thing you need to do is get the proportions of your final presentation. So if you're going to be doing a vehicle wrap, find examples of different vehicle wraps. What you can just look up is car vector or car vehicle wrap, sort of, as long as you put in vector, therefore you're going to get a nice design. It's not going to be a photograph, which you don't want, because you want your design to be the focal point and the highlight. And so having a vector design makes the car look a little bit more two-dimensional, and then it will really make your design stand out. And look at what views you want to include your design on, if it's just the side or the back and front. Having it as a vector, they tend to be 2D orientated, so it's captured really nice front on or side on, so therefore there's no sort of distortion with perspective. So don't use a photo, and make sure the vehicle's white. If you need to look at billboards, so you're going to be able to see this, we don't actually need to know what size it is. They're going to be meters, so they might be 10 meters by 4 meters. But the proportion's the main thing. The way you're presenting it in the end is still on an A3 piece of paper, so you're going to use that A3 piece of paper and then just find whatever proportion this needs to be to place it in. If you're sort of unsure how you're going to display it and how advertising might be displayed in out there, different companies, so Billboards Australia, they have some, and there you got billboards and you've got transit examples, so sort of vehicle wraps themselves, or you can think about bus shelters, printing and hoarding. Hoardings, how that's different between a billboard, they're like wallpapers, and they can be up to 300 meters long, and they can be displayed on walls, on ceilings, on the ground, walkways, so high traffic areas obviously. But you might be doing digital as well. Moving from there, so we know what presentation we're going to design, we now need to look at scanning and bringing in our image. So here I've started off with my design. I'll move that out of the way for a minute, and I'll just show you what I've done. So I've gone through and scanned this image that I've made. So it's all about yogaing at the local zoo. I like to do my development for a poster on graph paper. It just allows you to get those proportions correct, but more specifically allows you to create really nice aligned type to develop the composition. So it's all nice and lined. There's a nice lovely vertical line running there, and likewise with a horizontal line and even spacing throughout it. I played around basically with the text. I've tried to include a basic sort of giraffe that's doing yoga. Not too sure what position that would be called in yoga. Then I will drag that onto my final design. So this is going to be an A3 poster, so I'll set it up as that. I'll align it up with the document. Obviously this document is the white A3 size, so whatever's on it is going to be printed. Whatever's overhanging won't be printed. Just remembering the printer's not going to print all the way to the edge. And what I like to do is just lock that. What I've done as well is I've included what we call these guides. So I've dragged it into the middle, horizontally and vertically, so I can divide it into the different quarters or different halves. There's also the rule of thirds is a really common one to go through and use, but work out what sort of arrangement you're going to have. So if you want it nice and balanced, this is going to be the best way to do it. And I also like to include these guides here as well, which are, as you can see, about 10 mil in. And so that's just so you don't want any crucial information beyond that. You can have imagery beyond it, but you don't want crucial information. So where my final design, I'm going to need to bring this up because, as I said, the printer's not going to print all the way to the edge. So if you have crucial information there, it could cut it off. You know, things like phone numbers and email addresses and all that sort of things are really important. You want to have it slightly in, and it's just going to make a better design. Moving into Illustrator, we've gone over that. When you're dragging this image in, you're just going to go File, Place, and drag it in, but usually you can just drag and drop it in. Including the type, here we've got the type that I've just clicked and dragged, rather than just typing. So if we go yoga, that'll be good, but it'll just continually write. But if you need to rotate it, do that. Otherwise, in this case, because we're making sort of a body of text, you're going to click and drag out and then type it, and that becomes a bit more of a column. You're just not going to be able to rotate it because it recognises the column. I'll then place that where I want it to be. It's looking pretty good. Playing around with different typefaces. So Illustrator has, or Photoshop, they have a set amount of downloaded extra ones here, but they're going to have about 70 or 80. Might not be, they're really good for bodies of text, but they might not be the most creative ones. A really good website to go to is this. The font's really well categorized. They're all free. However, there's sort of different donations, or if it's for personal use, or if it's 100% free, so you can use it for commercial use. That brings in the side of communication designs with ethics of use of somebody else's work. Somebody else has designed this, and so therefore you need to give them credit. Or if it's just saying it's free, you can. It's up to you to go through and use. So think about when you're using typefaces, images, or other people's design. You need to reference their material. So you can go through and download Lemon Milk's always a good one. Not going to use it in this case, but it probably doesn't fit my design. But just showing you the process. So it will download. This is for Mac and PC. It's actually a really good one. And then you just download OpenType, font types, or it'll be TrueType, and then install, and that will appear on yours. So you can see this as a collection. So it's bold, italics, light, so on and so forth. Some of them will only have one font, and they might only be uppercase as well, not lowercase. So if I go on here, well, this one's called multi-core. So in other words, I can just type it in and then it will appear. And I've selected that because I want it to tie in with that whole yoga theme. It's a little bit curved, it's a bit more friendly. You're not going to want a sharp edge. None of those are going to be very suitable. Something like sci-fi is going to be not resemble yoga at all. So try and have select a font that's really going to highlight your theme. I've then changed the color, I've then changed the scale of it, and I've emphasized the scale of yoga and animal to try and make it nice and clear. I've also played around with, it's all left aligned, but you can play around with that. The character, and I've changed it so the tracking's a little bit tighter. You can see what that's doing there. As well as I've also played around with the leading, and it's continually needs to be altered because it's too tight here and too loose there. So play around with those qualities to make it really legible and engaging and effective. So I continue typing that out. Moving on to selecting an image. When you're selecting images, especially photos, obviously you don't want any clip art. You need to make your own design. You can't be selecting somebody else's and then making small alterations to it because it's not your own work. You need to create your own work. And so what I've done here is I've selected drinking giraffe white background. So that's effectively looking for, like in cinematography of green screens. I'm trying to find something that's on a white clean background, so then I can select that background or select the image on the background and remove it really quickly and easily. Especially things like animals. they're going to be really hard to cut them out from their background. That's the whole idea of survival and patterns in nature, is the pattern created on them or displayed on them obviously is meant to tie into the environment, so that makes it, in terms of photoshopping, can be quite difficult. So find something with a white background, or where's my example that I used in the end? It's here somewhere. Even this one works quite well if it used properly. Whereas you can see the background's quite blurred, so they used a really high aperture. You're going to be able to cut that out really easy because there's a nice clean line. You've seen Google Images has recently removed the view image, so you have to go the visit, or you just right click on it and open a new window, open a new tab, one of those, and you'll get the full size. Don't just copy this example because it's still just a thumbnail. It's not actually that resolution, which is really quite high. That's only going to be a small image. When searching on Google Images, it's always best to go view, size, make large or medium. You can see they're a lot bigger. Generally, the photo quality is going to be better because the person who's uploaded it, they're looking for the quality. Make sure you don't select anything that has a watermark because you can't remove them, and obviously the person's put them on there, so you don't use them. You have to sign up or register with the company and then use them in that way. You can use other image libraries, so people like Getty Images, who were the ones who have told Google Images to remove their view image. So therefore you need and they're obviously high quality sort of photos. A lot of newspapers and publications use Getty Images, one of the big ones, but other photo libraries are out there, and they sort of stay them down here. So other sites are stock, think stock, so on and so forth. Stock images. Now I'm going to go through and look at introducing it into Photoshop. Here's an image we'll come to later on. Here's my image I've played around with and how I created mine. So I had the underlying image there. I've created a layer, and that's what gives Photoshop its power, is having layers and flexibility, and you can turn them on and you can arrange them. So there we go, arrange it pretty easily. I've quickly drawn this just with a stylus pen. You can see in the solution, it doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. One, the quality of it's not great. I haven't spent enough time developing it. But two, it just doesn't tie in with the whole yoga thing. Would have been more effective if it's a manipulated photograph that I've manipulated a bit more in Photoshop. This would work if it's something probably a bit more creative or a bit more handmade, crafty, or a bit more youth orientated. Maybe that would work, but for this case it doesn't, so I'd have to scrap that idea. But that's how I've gone through and used it. Photoshop only has one undo, so if you need to do any more than one, use this little icon, which is the history tab, and if it doesn't appear up here, you go Windows and then History. Otherwise, the tools are very similar to Illustrator. I've realized my microphone disconnected, so I am re-recording this component of it. So what I've just sort of gone over is developing my design in Photoshop. Obviously it's not quite so effective, but the next step I'm going to show you is to go through and how to go through and remove backgrounds, how to color correct a photo really quickly and easily, how to apply different sort of effects, how to remove any sort of blemishes and modify a photo slightly, and then how to go through and select and remove images and any other sort of adjustments, changing it to grayscale, those sort of things. So I've collected this image. First of all, I like to quickly go through and just color correct it slightly. Zoom in, image. These three tend to work pretty well. You can go through, make other adjustments, but it'll just pump up the contrast and brightness. So auto tone, that's not working very well. auto color, that's not working very well. Auto contrast, that works brilliantly. So it just picks it up a little bit in terms of its color sort of saturation, brightness, and contrast. The next step to go through and change is if you need to modify the image at all. Okay, so making sort of small changes, you're going to most likely remove any blemishes with a spot tool. So down here there's a few spots, and I'll just use the spot healing tool, and you want to have the brush a little bit bigger than what you want to remove. Okay, so changing the brush is just the brackets, and that's the same thing if you're using the paint brush tool or any of those. Brackets will increase it, and so I'll get rid of that one, get rid of that one. So obviously just sampling around it and then repeating it. If it's a little bit bigger, you can use the patch tool. So we'll try and remove this component, and it's just going to mirror this component here, and that works quite well. And to deselect, just go to select, deselect, or Command D is the shortcut. Other areas, we might just try and extend this antler a little bit. So what one's good for that is the content aware tool, and so we've got it as extend at the moment, or you can have it as move. So if you want to copy an example, so it's a paddock full of sheep and you want to move a few others, you select one sheep and then you'll drag it to the area that you want to move it to. So extend, and we'll select what we want to extend, and then we'll just push it up a little bit. Press enter. That will sample it, and that looks heaps better. So that's basic sort of quick corrections using these tools. Now, sampling and selecting different colors or making selections is number one, always try and use the magic wand tool. It is magic and saving a lot of time. And if I select it, I obviously want to just select the white because it's selecting its magic in terms of selections of color, but it's not picking up enough, or it's picking up too much. So it's trimming off the ears here in this little location down here. So play around with the tolerance. It's usually around 30, and it might not be the best. So if you make it 10, it's picking up even less. So it's picking up obviously 10 shades either side of that color that you're selecting. Or if we make it 40, it'll probably do a pretty good job. 20. That's pretty good. And then you can always select that there, and that's better. And so therefore I can cut that out. Now this background is now telling us it's transparent, so it won't print as that checker pattern. That's just how Photoshop differentiates or tells the viewer that it's a transparent background compared to a white background. So I've just deleted that. Might even, if I want to select exactly opposite that, so the giraffes, I will now go select inverse, that will select those giraffes. I'll cut it. I might even put it on a new document that I have better control over. So 150 is the resolution I want. I want it on CMYK because I want to print it. If you just want to have it on screen, keep it RGB. And these will be in line with the image, so it fits perfectly on there. And then I can get rid of that if I want to. Other changes, what else do we need to go over? Other selection tools. So if I go back to this one and just undo, delete. If the magic wand tool is, if the image is too difficult and the magic wand tool's not working, it's a little bit too sensitive, the next best one I find is the magnetic tool, and it picks up a nice clean hard edge. So it's going to be able to pick up there, it's going to freak out a little bit here, and that will continue around, and I'll just loop it around there. And you can see I've taken up too much, but then other areas I need to change. And so those areas I'll just use a lasso tool, which is like a free selection. And if I hold shift, that's going to plus, so I need to add 2, which is that location there. And if I need to remove, I'll hold alt and it will show a minus, and I want to get rid of that area there. And then same thing, I can cut that area out. So that's the basic sort of selection tools. We've done color correction, modifying the image. If you need to change any other preferences, so you might want to make it grayscale, you can simply select that. If you need to make any adjustments, these are basic sort of photo adjustments, sort of like filters in Instagram, those sort of things. Color correction, color matching, that'll be under images, adjustments, or under filter, and you get different effects here. So you can do blurring and distortion and sharpening and stylizing it. Liquify is quite good as well for manipulation in terms of playing around and making areas bigger and smaller. So traditional photoshopping. If you want to change the color, so let's make these giraffes a totally different color, blue. I will select the white background. I'll reverse that, so I'm selecting the actual giraffes. First of all, before I get to that, if I want to select all the brown little patches on the giraffe, I will make that a bit better. Still not picking up quite right, 40. Let's try that one. That's better. And I want to select all these patches. I'll use the magic wand. I will then go select. So we'll play it around with inverse, but another really handy one is similar, and that will select all the other patches or same color objects on that animal. And you can then make further adjustments. So I want to add that bit and so on and so forth. And I can cut that out, and then that's a really quick way to go through and selecting that. Sorry, let's get back to changing the color of these. So I'll select the whole image. I'll go select inverse. I will then select layers, and I'll change an adjustment. This won't affect the layer. It will add different effects to that layer, which you can simply turn on and off. So if you want to undo it, you can easily undo it. In this case, you can obviously change any of these, but solid color is the one I want. We're going to make it blue. And that's the mask that's applied. This is obviously the color it's applied. I'll right click on that. I'll go blend options. And rather than being a solid color, so blend mode, I'll then make it color. And it applies that effect. And I can quickly go through here and change it and dilute the intensity of that color a bit more. And you can turn that on and off. Often people would go through and use image adjustment and hue and saturation, but that can get affected a fair bit. You might find it sort of, in this image it works quite well, but it might, the colors might not be right, and then you might have a little bit of difficulty with that. I've gone through about my image in terms of not being suitable for the end user. When you're exporting an image, so if I try and export this, okay, it's transparent there, I copy it, Control C, I go into Photoshop, I paste it. Even though it was transparent, it brings it across as a JPEG. JPEGs don't recognize transparencies, and so therefore then you got to go through and delete those. So in that case, we'll just go File, we'll go Save As, and I'll save it as a PSD, that's what it is there, or save it as a PNG, wherever that is. It's going to be down here. No, it's not there. In that case, I'll go File, Export, and then save it as a PNG. And that recognizes transparency. So when you bring it across, so if I go in here, File, which is what I've done here, I'll go File, Place, I'll find the image, so that one. And therefore it recognizes the transparencies. While I've got this here, I will later do an image trace of it. Pasting and lining into the composition. So let's move that out of the way for a second. It's really important to align your image and your type. So there's a nice strong relationship there. You can see I've selected the colors based out of here. So I've just eyedropped that from down here, so it links nice and well. And same thing with this type. I've selected the lovely sort of sandy browns out of the giraffe here for that, and then just a nice soft yellow that's contrasting but still aligns with the whole image. The image is also aligned well with the text. There's no text overlapping the image, which would really affect the legibility of it. Adding the logo, which I've got down here, I probably could make it a little bit smaller. That's simply done by just having this image, made it nice and hot pink. This is an image trace from the logo of the website, and so if you need to change it, just use the direct selection tool. I'll select the pink, so if you're not selecting at all, same in Illustrator, you can go select same fill color, that selects all of it there, and that's how you can go through and change it. Sometimes it might go grayscale, probably about half the time it does, I'm not too sure why it does it. All you need to do is open up the color tab and change it from, it will default to the grayscale, and just change it to CMYK, and then copy that and scale it down as I've done there. Last thing I wanted to say, and that's how I created this, was just an image trace. If you want to quickly modify an image in Illustrator, bring in a nice photograph, but you don't want it photograph quality, you want it a bit more look like it's handmade. Select the image, go up the top, image trace. It will do this, which is its default, and just select this tab here, so image trace panel, and change default to whatever you want. Don't do these ones. Before you do this, always save it, because it takes a bit of processing. It's likely to crash. So let's see what 3-color result is. Yeah, it's not crash hot. 6. Yeah, much better. I'm happy with that. And so this is a preview mode. You won't be able to change these colors here, so you just need to go expand. Use the direct selection tool. You might want to get rid of the white area there. We might want to change this color and make it a little bit stronger. And you can see how you can manipulate a design quickly and easily just using that image trace tool. Happy with my final. And so I'm going to save it, and I just want to save as a Illustrator file, not a PDF. So an Illustrator file, and there we'll have it, maybe there, or you can go through and save that, and that just keeps it as a master. So if you need to make any changes later on, you can scale this, you can change the font, you can change the color, so on and so forth. That will be a master file. And then it's always good to always save it as well as a PDF. Don't save it as a JPEG, save as a PDF. It doesn't compress it. It will embed the imagery, it will embed the typefaces, everything. JPEGs do compress, and they will also remove the transparency, which I've spoken about before. So often when you open up a file on somebody else's computer and it doesn't have the image linked, or it doesn't have the font, if you save as a PDF, you can view it on anything, as well as PDFs. You can ask, like a commercial printer might say they want it having trim marks, so I've just included that, which you saw at the end. And also they might ask for a 3mm bleed around it, so you can just add the bleed there, save as a PDF, and it will spit out like this. Thanks for watching.